Hi, I'm Daniel Popa. Let me just pour my heart a little bit in the hope that it will be an encouragement for some. There is no way we can move forward in learning anything if we do not make steps and do it with our hands. Today, just coming back from work, having more work at home, and there's no complaint of that. That is something we choose. Some people choose a bit different, and we do not think that is bad. So I have assembled boxes, as I have tried very hard during the winter to be prepared. I must say I have invested money and time prepping frames, having wax, boxes, having them painted, ready, swarm boxes, anything you name it. I made lids, I made bottom boards, I made dividers, anything. Well, I am not completely prepared, and that should scare someone who says I have time. Now, even if we put in the effort, we may not have enough of it. Why? Well, we are in Australia in an exceptional position. We are really blessed, and we should guard this blessing. We do not have the major problems which beekeepers and bees face around the world, and that's the varroa destructor. It just decimates colonies, and because I'm part of a big group, beekeeper group in Romania, I know how much it is talked about. Treatments and more treatments and more treatments and more treatments. Well, we don't have yet that problem here, and our bees are thriving at most, and because of that, they kind of overtake us. We may be prepared, but not prepared enough for them. And swarming is a big problem because we have taken over the natural habitat of the bees. There's not many places bees can go and call a home. They go on people's chimneys and walls and drains and anything else, compost bins. And the recovery and the process after for bees and the beekeepers is not only expensive, but very traumatic. This is very serious. And because we need to minimize that risk of swarming and control as much as possible, we need to be prepared, giving them space, knowing when and what to do. Now, just a couple of things before I move on. Yesterday I have checked one of the swarms 10 days ago. They have gone into a polystyrene box here just in my shed, and I checked up on them. They're just going beautiful. Need a little bit of assistance, not much nectar coming in, and when you give them like 5-6 frames with wax foundation as a swarm, they'll do the best to build those comb and have a room for the queen to start laying. Well, in my case, she was a virgin, I know it, and she went, mated, managed to come back and start laying. But there's not much food inside. Would I be surprised? No. They've started from scratch or from nothing. But if I can grab a frame with honey from the other hives, then it would do well just to drop it in this swarm and they will go fine. One more thing, if you check a swarm or a split, especially when they're a small colony, it's easier to find the queen and have a chance to mark it. Now, marking the queen is not an easy thing. It is a little bit scary. We never mind want to grab a bee because we are scared she's gonna sting us, anything. Well, queen bees do not sting us, but they're very delicate and we need to be, handling them with care, not grabbing the abdomen. I won't go in much detail, but I have a cage which I have purchased, is like called one-handed cage, and a marker, and I tried to put her in the cage now for the third, fourth, fifth time maybe with other queens, and after that it just dialed on me, I'm doing the wrong thing. So I have to put in the queen to walk upwards in the cage, because her instinct, if I push her like in the cage, she's want to come upwards. Sorry, not having the cage to show you practically what I'm talking about, but the point I'm making is, yes, if we do something wrong, because I thought, oh, I must have hurt the queen little bit, I tried, we're big creatures and they're very tiny insect, very easy to cause a damage. But there is no way we would learn except we try. No way we would learn except to try. And more so if we care, we're kind of, I don't want to do it, I might hurt. Try. We go better as we experience it. Now, how do you distinguish, touching upon this, between a primary swarm and a second or third swarm? Well, we may not witness when the bees swarm, and we may not know which hive they come out from. And if you come upon a very big swarm, like I had maybe 3 of them, just massive swarms, 10 frames kind of, and is not enough for them. Well, that that's a primary swarm. That's the first time a very strong colony swarms out. And most likely is that the queen is an old queen with that swarm. How do you know? Well, if you check shortly afterwards, you can see her already laying eggs. Well, if you come upon a smaller swarm, and as we progress in spring and summer, there'll be smaller and smaller swarms. Not as a rule, but that's something we see. And then it's a secondary swarm, so they have more queen cells in the box, in the hive, and as the queen emerges, they're gonna take, and of course it's already half of the population, they're gonna take half of the half, and that's how it is. And those queens will be virgins, and they need to go out and mate and come back and be successful. So it's not 100% success on that level. One more thing I want to say about these boxes. For some odd reason, I had finger lock boxes before, but I come to prefer these rebated ones. And maybe you will disagree with me, and I'm okay with that. I don't have the claim that I have come to master everything or know, and no one should say that. But look at the exposure of the wood. Very, very little. There is no exposure here, and the exposure here ends here. Where with the lock fingers, you have massive blobs of ends of woods on each side, massive on this side. So I would say area wise there is much more exposure with the lock finger than with these ones, and practically I have made that difference in those boxes. Lock fingers, after 1 year or so, they kind of start to open up and all that sort, and you can see, well, that is how the weather gets in through cracks. So if you have a minimal area where the weather can get in, there you minimize the problem. If you put a good bit of PVA glue, and if you, like me, put 3 good screws, exterior screws, I don't think you should have a problem. Well, that's another thing and you may not. Well, I'm using this filler. It's a filler crash repair shop would have. And this particular brand, this particular type, you can use for wood and for marble and for other surfaces rather than for cars. But what I need to tell you, it's a 2-pack filler, so that much hardener for that big of a tub. Very little to use as hardener. But it dries fairly quickly, very easy kind of to sand. And you talk about once it gets on, you cannot take it off for your life. So it is really, really good, and I like using it. Well, I have used an acrylic paint. I know some people, quite few people have asked, what paint should I be using? And if you use an acrylic exterior good quality paint, maybe in the first coat, thin it up like 10% water for the paint to penetrate a bit the wood, and work after that with another 2-3 coats. This year, I'm gonna use, for the batch of this new, I'm gonna use an oil-based undercoat. And that is perfectly right. Well, I've been a very good advocate of the acrylic paint as a top coat, but you cannot beat an undercoat in oil base. You just cannot beat it. It is so good. It penetrates, it seals, it stays. And you can put an acrylic on top very easy. Personally, I would not use an oil-based top coat for exterior. But I know people who would use it. I'm a painter and decorator by trade, part of Master Painter Australia. I do this for a living. If I can stay away from oil base, I will. There's many reasons for that. But people are using it. It has been used for a very long time with success, tested by time, but we are learning more and more every day, and I think we should take advantage of that. The acrylic today, exterior acrylic, it's way better than what used to be, and I have never painted exterior except with very little variation on woodwork such as window or doors in oil base. Anything else goes in acrylic. And if these massive Dulux Wattle companies who produce these paints do not know what they are doing, I think they would have been broke a long time ago. I think we can take advantage of that. Well, this video is way too long now, and I will say God bless you.